Last lesson, we learned that a phrase was a group of words that give more detail about one single word. Today, we're going to learn about a specific type of phrase, called a noun phrase. Today we will learn what a noun phrase is, learn how to expand a noun phrase, explore why we use noun phrases. A noun phrase is a small group of words that contains a noun. Remember, a noun names a person, place, thing, or idea. Every noun phrase has what's called a head noun. A head noun is the noun that all the other words in the phrase modify or describe. In simple words, it's the noun that all the other words are talking about. A noun phrase could be two words, like the shadows. Or it could be much longer, the shadows of the blue pine trees. This longer version of the noun phrase is what we call an expanded noun phrase. To expand something means to make it bigger. But that's not all we're doing here. Look at the extra detail and description the writer has added by expanding the noun phrase. Yes, the phrase gets longer, but more importantly, it gets more descriptive too. There are a few different ways we can expand noun phrases. Let's read this description of Bollywood dances in action to learn more. Under the bright lights of the stage, 6 Bollywood dancers took their starting positions. On the left, 3 women stood with their hands outstretched, palms elegantly turned upwards. 3 men mirrored this action on the right. As the dancers assumed these poses, a heavy silence fell across the audience, held in anticipation. The music started and the Bollywood dancers sprung into action. They moved in perfect unison, their feet hitting the ground in time to the rhythmic drumming that filled the auditorium. Their costumes, vibrant silks of green and gold, shimmered with each energetic movement. The women's detailed and elaborate headdresses featured a motif of the sun and the moon. These details reflected the traditional influences acting upon modern Bollywood dance. An important form of expression, dance was historically a way of paying tribute to gods and deities, who were often represented by the sun and moon in stories. The Bollywood dancers' movements were also inspired by tradition. As they twisted and turned, their hands changed quickly between different mudras, symbolic hand gestures. Each gesture helped to tell part of the story. Whether these mudras were familiar to the audience or not, every person was captivated by the energy and emotion of the Bollywood dance. Several feet were tapping against the stone floor of the auditorium. Last lesson, we learned that by expanding phrases, we can be more descriptive in our writing. If we want to expand a noun phrase, our first option is to insert a word before the head noun. Let's look at the noun phrase, the lights. How can we add detail and description here? Let's expand this noun phrase. The bright lights. The writer has added an adjective, bright, to the noun phrase to add description and colour to their writing. Remember, an adjective is a word that tells us more about a noun, but we can also add words after the head noun. The lights, twinkly and glittering, were on. Or we can do both. The bright lights, twinkly and glittering, were on. We can add individual adjectives like we see here. Or we can add a whole phrase that works like an adjective. The writer has added of the stage. This phrase is called an adjectival phrase because it behaves like an adjective, giving us more information about the noun phrase. Do you see how, by expanding the noun phrase, the description is far more vivid for the reader? Another option for expanding noun phrases is to use a relative clause. Do you remember what a relative clause is? Relative clauses are a special type of subordinate clause that give us additional information about a noun. We often use relative clauses to expand noun phrases. relative clauses are introduced by a relative pronoun, which could be who, whom, whose, which, or that. They're costumes, which were made of vibrant silk, glittered in the lights. The relative clause, which were made of vibrant silk, is used to expand the noun phrase. It gives us more detail about the costumes and creates a colourful image for the reader. The audience, who loved the show, applauded. Here, the relative clause, who loved the show, gives us important additional information about the audience. Remember, these aren't whole sentences yet. They don't make sense on their own. These are expanded noun phrases. So, now we know. A noun phrase is a group of words that give more information about one noun. We expand noun phrases by adding adjectives to describe the noun or by adding a relative clause. By expanding noun phrases, we can easily add more detail and description to our sentences, making our writing more engaging for our reader.